Hey, Cubs fans, and welcome to a brand new edition of Cubs on Tap. It feels really good to be back on the mic, but not only that, Juice. We're also talking about a Cubs winner. I'm Ron Luce, joined tonight by Juice Man himself. Juice, how you feeling after tonight's Cubs 4-3 win, over the Padres?
You know, it's a special time in the season when you switch from what they could be buying with Chris Bryant to what they could be adding. And by what I mean is I switched from looking at major league pipelines and what's in the farm system for these contending teams. And now I'm looking to see what the Cubs could put on this roster. They're playing great baseball right now, and this hopefully continues. And it's going to be a fun summer if they can continue to do what they're doing. And props to the team for making adjustments, coming out ready to go. You know, after a rough April, not getting down and just saying, hey, man, let's make them shove it in May. And every baseball reporter, and us included, said June's going to decide it. And so far, good start.
Absolutely. A 1-0 start to start the month of June is a beautiful thing. Our friend Garrett from Iowa jumping in here. Cubs in 4. I don't give a fuck who we play. We are fucking back. And it really does feel that way. It feels like the Cubs are back, Juice. I'm super juiced because not only am I on the show with you, this is the Juice and Luce show tonight, but you know, I was out in the middle of nowhere for most of the weekend. I was down in Atlanta. It was my cousin's bachelor party. So I was out of it. I was just watching highlights, and I'm watching this team rake. I'm watching this team rake with guys like Rafael Ortega on the lineup, Patrick Wisdom, who's just hitting the shit out of the baseball right now. You know, guys that are just coming out of the woodwork and helping this team win meaningful ball games. Hell, yesterday's lineup, it feels like 3 days ago because how early they played yesterday, how late they played today, but it looked like a AAA lineup for some teams. It was KB, Javi, and the boys. It was like a boy band. It literally is what it was like. And you know what? Patrick Wisdom hits 2 bombs on Memorial Day. KB goes deep. Javi goes deep twice. And then they keep it going tonight. Wisdom goes deep yet again. Wilson Contreras with an absolute nuke to left center field. I mean, what a feeling right now this Cubs team is. And they're so much fun to watch. I busted out the little W hat for tonight. You know what the best part about this is, Juice? This was a bleachers giveaway one year that I went to a game. It's little Velcro here. It's got a bunch of patches amazing on the inside. Yeah, so you know what? I might have to start doing this now when they win.
I'm a huge fan of that hat. And I think for every Cubs on Tap live that we run after this, if they win, you got to wear that hat. And there's got to be some type of ceremony, you know, the raising of the W or something that we incorporate on this show.
We'll have to make that happen because the best part is there are multiple patches, so I could like rip something off and whip it at the wall or something and just smack a W on it and probably give myself a concussion every single time that I do it. But quickly, Juice, just for those that maybe weren't able to catch tonight's game and were following along kind of on the MLB alerts, which is unfortunately what I had to do most of the weekend. But as we mentioned, Patrick Wisdom, bottom of the second, ladies and gentlemen, with Javier Baez taking a walk, which, by the way, if you play along with Cubs on Tap, that's a drink. So whatever you're drinking, that might have to be like a finish your drink because that happens like once every 3 years, it feels like.
Yeah.
And I know I'm exaggerating.
It's like the summer solstice, or I don't know.
Yeah.
Does that even make any sense? Because solstice happens
it's like,
often, does it?
It's like a
I wasn't a science guy, so I mean.
That's okay. I was not either. It's like a bi-weekly event at best. Like it maybe happens once every 2 weeks. So the fact that it happened was fantastic. And then obviously Wisdom with a bomb of his own in the left field makes this thing 2-0. Unfortunately, the Padres did storm back against Kyle Hendricks in the top of the 5th. Caratini, of course, it's the season of old faces killing the Cubs. But Caratini hits his 4th of the season. It was a no-doubter. And then with Ryan Weathers, who was 2 for 2 at that point in the game. Always weird when the pitcher's actually hitting, but here we are. Tommy Pham comes up and actually gives the Padres the lead at that point, but have no fear because Kyle Hendricks gets on base. And then Wilson Contreras hits the bomb of the night to left center field. 445 feet, I believe, was the official tally on that one. Absolutely freaking fantastic. And guys, the comments blowing up. Thank you so much. We're going to start popping some of these up here shortly. But man, I mean, and Juice here, Garrett from Iowa, just continuing to share what you felt. He's confused. He says the national reporters told him that the Cubs need to sell and the farm is trash. And yet, as we just mentioned of this game, Patrick Wisdom, who came up. Also, by the way, hold on. Shout out to Scott from Iowa, because I believe it was a Cody and I episode that we were talking about who would come up to replace Bodie.
That was us.
It was us. You're right.
That was us. Well, he had it even before when Nico Horner got hurt.
That's right.
And said that Patrick Wisdom would be a guy with power they can bring up. I've been thinking about that for each and every one of Patrick Williams at bats, which seem to be just straight bomb shows lately.
I have too.
Dare I say that the Cubs have a real roster problem upcoming? Because now that, if I've read those reports correctly, Hayward and Marisnik are going to the Iowa setting to get some at bats. Yep. I don't know how long it'll be till they're back, but what are you going to do? I know Alcantara is probably going to go down, but what a hell of a bat. I know he struck out in that, but put together a real great plate appearance, and he has too. He's been, serviceable. He's not somebody that's, going to beat the wall down with hits or really but he's been a really solid guy to bring up. The Cubs have a lot of depth at AAA, it seems like now. And, credit to that whole organization, man, for doing just so much evaluation and bringing in guys that, if it hasn't been the bullpen, with guys like Tommy Nance, who obviously were in the independent league, as recent as last year. And, you're looking at names that you don't suspect to contribute. And it was funny, I was listening to 670 The Score today on a ride back, and David Ross was on there talking about how he had to introduce himself to people. And Lawrence Holmes asked a great question. He said, do you even know everybody who's in your locker room right now? He's like, well, there's a couple guys I had to introduce myself to. It's the first time we ever talked. Man, how hard is that to navigate through? Credit to him, credit to the organization for spotting talent. It's hard because the Cubs haven't had, picks towards the top of it. So you can't stock that farm system. And they've been buying, not selling as a recent, minus Yu Darvish trade. But they didn't have the deepest of farm. And now they're starting to kind of, reap the benefits of some small time guys that they found underneath the radar. And man, I hope it continues, because those are the guys you like to root for, right? The Patrick Wisdoms of the world, the Tommy Nance, the guys who, you don't know if you're going to see, and they don't even know if they're going to make the team. And when those guys come up and contribute, it's huge.
Absolutely. It's always a good feeling to see those guys come up, especially guys that you've heard their name for a while, just being in the system in general, and you're not sure where they're going to fit. And it really feels like lately, and, I could be totally off my rocker. Maybe it's different in some other organizations, but a lot of organizations, their AAA team is more of those 4A guys, right? Where it's they could be big leaguers, but you're not sure. So they're just organizational depth. Well, right now, these AAA guys are coming up and contributing big time. I mean, Alcantara tonight was 2 for 3. And like you said, Juice, in that last plate appearance, sure, it was a fly out, but holy smokes, that was an incredible at bat. He took some incredible pitches. He is seeing the ball super well. They said he was hitting 328 in Iowa to start the year too. I mean, he was just absolutely killing it. He's a switch hitter too, which you love to see. It's always a nice thing to have, especially if you can hit well from both sides of the ball. But and then you got Patrick Wisdom, who's, I think his stat line right now is 8 for 16 with 4 home runs, if I remember hearing that correctly. Now, granted, I think that's shifted now. It's 8 for 17, God forbid. Whatever. But still, I mean, he's just hitting the living shit out of the baseball. So it's so nice to see. And even Ortega, sure, he hasn't maybe made a ton of noise, but he did have a home run, if I remember correctly. And he's played good defense. He's not a liability out in right field. And arguably right field's probably one of the harder positions to me, at least as an outfielder play, because you're the farthest from home plate. It's the hardest throw. There's a lot of things that go into playing right field, and a lot of ballparks, right field tends to be weird. Now, granted,
Wrigley right field is one of the hardest in the majors.
Right.
Jason Hayward has said it time and time again. Yeah. And you're right about that. He's played great defense. He's been able to come in and you're able to shift Brian out to left field at that point, or put him at third if time being and who was in the lineup that day. But I'll tell you what, man, it's just great to see guys who I don't think any of us, going back to our season shows. I mean, would you expect guys like Tommy Nance to be bridging to Craig Kimbrell?
Nope.
Or Ryan Tepera being literally elite. I mean,
he was an MVP vote getter. Don't forget.
Right. For reasons that voter still doesn't know, but it's great to see this team playing such good baseball, and you can't make excuses for who they're playing either. They're playing solid baseball teams and teams that give them a hard time. I really truly wonder, with all these guys hitting, what do you do with Jason Hayward? What do you do with him? Because he really, really struggled. And I just don't know if with Chris Bryant playing how he's playing and Patrick Wisdom slugging, does J-Hay take the defensive kind of replacement role for a little bit until we can, string some bats together and he gets hot maybe and starts to win some playing time back? It'd be interesting because, Marisnik, before he got hurt, was playing great baseball too. So that outfield,
really good defense in center field as well.
Really, really stacked. And you can't. I hope that this Patrick Wisdom thing is just not a blurb on the radar here and ends up being something that's there for a long time. But it's it gives David Ross a lot more versatility to be able to move KB around. And I really like Patrick Wisdom, man. Really do. I like where he's at. I love the at-bats. I like the at-bats. I like what I see out of when he steps up to the plate. Yeah. And I know it's this league. We saw it. It's they come up, they have success, and then the league gets tape on you, and then you have to make an adjustment.
Right.
So within the next couple of weeks, I'm sure that comes. But I'm going to ride the Patrick Wisdom, statue playing baseball. Train. Yeah, that he's playing right now for as long as I can.
Yeah, I agree with you there, Juice. And I'm actually in the process. I mean, Wisdom has been around for a while. So that's what I was trying to look up. He is 29. So he's played a lot of baseball. And it's nice seeing those type of guys get, kind of that first look finally, even if it's at a later age in their career. A couple comments I want to get to because they all kind of tie into points that you and I have both mentioned already, Juice. So Baseball Booge, our boy, he says he does not want J-Hay back in this lineup. That's the one currently up if you're watching. And then he also mentioned, and I like this one because I have said this for a very long time. So thank you, sir, for agreeing with me. Dan Kantrovitz is the unsung hero of that front office. So thank you for mentioning that. And he also said, he tweeted about it today, that he thinks that Dan Kantrovitz is to thank for these role players contributing right now. And I absolutely agree because look at the two organizations he came from. The Oakland Athletics and the St. Louis Cardinals. What do both of those organizations do well? Pull some random Joe Blow out of their ass. And he does well. It happens every fucking year. We always joke about it. Again, there's a reason Moneyball worked for the A's because Billy Bean just poof magically finds a guy. He's got Scotty H coming off the bench and hitting nukes, to win games. It's just that crazy kind of shit. And Kantrovitz was exposed to all of that. So he's seen it. He's done it. He knows what those organizations do to be continually successful with not necessarily the biggest budgets in baseball. And guess what? Now, if you're able to find these kind of guys with a budget like the Cubs should have, especially after this season, now that fans are getting back into Wrigley at 60% capacity, yada, yada, yada. Can you imagine what the hell's going to happen when, a Patrick Wisdom's coming up making probably $770K at most, and then you can go sign a big-time starter that you need, and then all of a sudden, bada bing, bada boom, you're a good team. And guess what? They're a good team without even a big-time starter. And granted, Boog mentioned it tonight on the broadcast. Since 2016, there's 5 guys ahead of Kyle Hendricks in ERA since that time period. All 5 are going to the Hall of Fame. So don't disrespect Kyle Hendricks, but that was certainly one. Scott, our boy Scott from Iowa, once again, huge shout out to you, man, for calling the Patrick Wisdom. Good for you. I'm like, that makes my heart warm. That was such a good call. But that defensive play as well that he made earlier in the game. And I believe Cody is 16-7 since eating a jar of mayonnaise, but he is 5-1 since getting a new tattoo. So there you go. I think that's got some work to do as well. And then as we, again, and Scott from Iowa with another great comment. The Cubs are 5-0 against 2 of the best teams in baseball right now, the Dodgers and Padres. And they're going to, again, see this Padres team tomorrow, and we'll touch on that here later in the show. And then they see them again next week. So a really good opportunity for the Cubs to say, hey, we can battle against the best of the best. And they got the Giants coming up, which I know a lot of people are like, well, it's the Giants. The Giants, I believe, as of going into play today, were first in the NL West.
Yeah, they're leading their division.
A lot of people forget they're having a really, really good year. just because it's the Giants and they go kind of under the radar with that, Dodgers and Padres rivalry kind of building now in the NL West. And then our boy Cody, who absolutely crushed it this weekend, by the way, with content. We're vibing. He wants to be buried in a Patrick Wisdom jersey in the Ivy. So, Cody, we'll see what we can do to make that happen for you, my guy. But I mean, Juice, there is such a good vibe about this team right now. Guys that are not normally contributing or coming up and contributing, and even dating back to a few weeks ago. Sure, now we're talking about guys that have to come up and fill in for injuries. But look at the Matt Duffys of the world. Look at the Jake Marisniks of the world. Guys that when they were signed, I think a lot of fans, probably us included, I'm sure you can run back the tape and we're probably like, it's okay. It's a depth move. But again, kudos to David Ross, first off, for being able to bring these guys together and put a good product on the field. But also kudos to this front office for, developing one of the best bullpens in baseball right now with guys that a lot of people haven't heard of. Really. I mean, if we're being entirely honest, outside of Craig Kimbrell coming into this season, most people haven't heard of almost every name in that Cubs bullpen right now. Maybe you've heard of Dan Winkler because of his time with the Braves. That was, people, there are a lot of unknown names. And then you go to, like you said, with Tommy Nance with independent ball, and our friend of the show, Max Bain, is another guy that's coming through the system as well that came from independent ball. Don't sleep on independent ball, ladies and gentlemen. By the way, if you're in the Chicagoland area, there's a lot of good independent teams. So make sure you get out and see some of their games as well, because who knows? Maybe those guys are going to be playing for the Cubs here in the next few years, because it just seems like they can find guys from fucking out of nowhere, Juice. I got to give it back to you real quick. I'm so worked up. I actually have to stand up and shake it off right now because I'm so excited that the Cubs are playing this well. So you take it away, and I'm gonna shake this one out real quick.
It's crazy to think, man, that I can't even focus with you jumping up and down. But yeah, no, if you really want to look at all the good teams that are around all sports, they have one thing in common, and it's the fact that they can find guys like this. The Patriots and your Blackhawks dynasties, and you look at the Cardinals in baseball, the teams that are always sticking around, they just scout better than everybody else, right? Mm-hmm. Because they're always picking towards the bottom. They make the smart moves. They have their core that they keep together, which, hey, Tommy Ricketts, start writing checks, buddy. Because this whole vibe ain't going nowhere. I'll tell you that. This fan base is excited for what's going on the north side, and let's start writing some checks here, because
checks.
It's time to keep this group, a little bit of this group together. That's, if you want to make some minor changes, by all means. But guys like Chris Bryant, they've earned it. Pay that man already.
Thanks. Yeah,
and go ahead.
I was just going to say, and another guy, speaking of extensions, all of a sudden, Cody's already apologized to him. But Javier Baez is playing some damn good baseball, too.
Yeah, he's been unbelievable. And that's starting to get to pay that man, too. And that's with that said, if they're going to scout like this, you start to think if they're just going to roll the dice, we're going to be okay no matter what. Because if guys like Dan Kantrovitz could pull bullpen arms like this in today's game, and these sprinkled in utility guys, the Cubs are just going to be there, and that's just the matter of fact. And it was a great game tonight, man. They did just enough to win, and that bullpen's just been tough as nails. It's been just the perfect cake recipe that the Cubs have had for the last month and some change. And I hope it continues, man, because if they keep playing like this, you're going to really start looking at maybe the Cubs do trade for a guy like Max Scherzer, just to put it at the top to say, hey, win the division and let's spin that wheel, because the way Adbert Alzolay is pitching and the way Kyle battled today, didn't have his best stuff for the one inning, but he looked, that beginning of the ball game, he looked really solid. And he looks like a guy who's really taken that ace role and running with it. Mm-hmm. And if you got three guys like that, a seasoned, Kyle Hendricks, who's been there, knows how to win playoff baseball games. You got Max Scherzer, who, another guy, knows how to win playoff baseball games. He's been in it. And you got Adbert throwing some nastiness, and you only need him to go through 5-6 innings, and then you hand it over to those guys with the spin rates, and Don't even talk about how dirty Craig was tonight. Man, it was like the MLB, and I tweeted it. They gave him a wiffle ball tonight because every single pitch was just sliding off the table, ridiculous. And I was the guy on this podcast who said the Cubs were going to win 75 games this year. When we did the first season predictions, all that, I think they're going to win 95. If they keep playing like this, have you seen the way they're playing baseball?
I sure have, Juice. I love that you can sit here and you can own it and say, I was wrong. And now you have that great prediction of a 95 win season.
I think they can win 95. I mean, the Cardinals just put Flaherty on the 10-day deal with the oblique, and they say it's more serious than a 10-day.
You never know.
You start looking at this division, you start thinking, well, not anybody's really that impressive.
Right.
You start to think of maybe the NL Central in terms of, what's in the division, what you got to play with. Maybe you can string a lot of wins together.
Yeah.
I don't know if they're going to win 95, but the way they're playing right now, it seems like it's possible.
Yeah. No, it absolutely is, Juice. I agree with you, man. You have a lot of good things. First off, I love the little name drop there of a possible deadline name because a lot of people forget he is a free agent after this season, and the Nationals are pretty atrocious. I can attest. I was at a game yesterday in person where they lost. I was down in Atlanta. I was at the Braves game. It was a beautiful day to be at the ballpark, by the way. If you were at the ballpark on Memorial Day anywhere, it was a great day. I know our buddy Joe Maris, contributor here at Cubs on Tap, he was at Wrigley, which I was envious of, but it was a great day to be at the ballpark. But yeah, I mean, that's an intriguing name. There's a lot of big name free agent starting pitchers that are on pretty bad teams that, who knows, for the right price, do you trade for them? Maybe. You never know. It's crazy to think about. There's so much right now, right? That, like you said, with this team, they're clicking at the right time. Guys are contributing. Guys are stepping up. Adbert's pitching great. The bullpen is insane. And Dirty Craig, I have to go on a little bit of a rant here, Juice, just for a minute. It'll be a short one.
Have at it.
But I got an alert. So I get fantasy baseball, like, little notifications throughout the day. Usually they're about my lineups because I do play. I nerd out like that. I have a good time with it. But today's was a ESPN Plus fantasy related article that popped down in my little thing. And it actually triggered me because for those that didn't know, I drove to Atlanta. So I was on an 11-hour car ride by myself today. So I had a lot of time to think. And I happened just to see this notification out of the corner of my eye. And it says, is it time to trade Craig Kimbrell? And I lost my shit. I was yelling at no one in my car. I was like, are you fucking serious? I said, the Cubs are in first place. They're playing some of the best baseball of the fucking season. Craig Kimbrell is going to be an intricate part of this team if they're going to do anything in the playoffs. Sure, they have a lot of guys that probably could come in and close the game, but I want a guy like Dirty Craig back there who's going to go down as one of the greatest closers in MLB history. And you're talking about fucking trading the man with the Cubs in first place. And I ended it with a big old, get the fuck out of here. And then I continued my drive because Craig Kimbrell, like you said, man, was just dirty. And I mean dirty with like 18 R's in there. He was just dirty tonight. And if he continues to pitch that way, and this bullpen of just a bunch of guys, you could call it Dirty Craig and the Boys is the bullpen name. You could do whatever the hell you want to call it. But they are one of the best bullpens in baseball, period. It's the stats prove it too. It's not even us just sitting here being Cubs fans going, rah, 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 we got a great bullpen. No, go check the fucking numbers if you disagree with me because they are just absolutely killing it. They're so much fun to watch right now. And it's just, it's making me so freaking happy.
And Ron, I don't think it's a fluke.
I don't think it is either.
Because I'm looking at the stuff that is actually out there in terms of the repertoire pitches. And I don't think that it's going anywhere. I think that bullpen is going to be in the top 5, top 3 in baseball for the rest of the year. I really do. They have so many arms. And we're not even talking about the young guys that, when this roster expands, who arguably have better stuff than what's out there right now. Isn't that wild? Crazy. I mean, we haven't even talked about Burl Caraway or what's it?
Braylon Marquez.
Jensen, right?
Ryan Jensen, who's just throwing absolute nastiness down in South Bend right now. Nastiness.
So what are we – to me, the hardest part of assembling, the second hardest part of assembling a playoff roster is the bullpen, who you're going to trust at the end of the game. Cubs have that down.
Yeah.
They're maybe a pitcher and a half away on the starting rotation from being, if they're going to hit like this, and that's always in our back of our minds. It's like going back to the ex-girlfriend or the girlfriend that cheated on you. It's like, oh, things are going great, but in the back of your mind, she did you dirty once, she did you dirty twice, maybe 3 times. Like, man, what am I doing to myself?
Yeah,
that's maybe where we're at with this hitting line, but I don't know, man. I think some of these guys have made some adjustments, and because they've been damn good. They haven't been. Remember, they had that run where they were first in the majors with the White Sox with their runs per game.
Yes,
they've kind of trailed off, I think, a little bit since then. And I'm talking about maybe a week and a half of not that level of production that they were having. But with that said, man, they do just enough to win. And with that bullpen, it's like you've made the game a 6-run game every time you go out because Craig's been nails, and you have so many options for the 7th, 8th to piece together to get to him that have just been nails. Yeah, that it's really getting fun, man. Tonight was a big one for me, and then I know we're going to move on soon to this the final game of this 3-game set. Tomorrow becomes even more huge, and there's a reason for that when we preview it. But the way they're playing against the Padres, and this was a huge test for me, I was really excited to see how they would play against a caliber of team like this.
Yeah,
they've really showed that they can stick around with these guys. And I know it's one series, but I mean, they're playing some really good baseball right now. Ride it, love it, and just all vibes, baby, all vibes.
Absolutely. And, just to add on to kind of what you said there, Juice, right? Like, they're just continuing to do it. And even in the later innings tonight, sure, they didn't add any runs, but they were still getting to this best bullpen in the NL of the Padres, who statistically are. They were still able to get hits. They were still able to get runners on. Sure, they weren't able to bring them in, but from where we were, just a month and a half ago, freaking out about what this offense could be. If, like you said, if they've truly made those adjustments and have turned it around offensively, that is going to be incredible going forward, because then they're going to be able to beat up anybody, and it doesn't matter how good your bullpen is. And obviously that makes a huge difference in the playoffs. We got a bunch of comments I do want to address real quick because they all relate to what you said, Juice. Scott from Iowa, he said he thought Kimbrel was going to hit 30 saves in March. Does he hit 50 this year? 50 is really hard in today's game, just because rarely do you see a closer go multiple days in a row anymore, too. I think 30 is very real. I think maybe 35 even is very real, maybe a little over 35. I'm not entirely sure if 50 is doable. And then a couple other comments here. Greg A., he said Dakota Meeks with another 2 clean innings tonight at Iowa.
That's another guy who's got nasty stuff.
And Trevor Migo, who we all liked when we saw his little tease this year as well. He was 1 1/3 clean tonight, and he just specifies clean as in no runs. Understandable. And then, again, our buddy Garrett from Iowa saying this is a playoff team, add a Scherzer, and we can talk World Series. And if they continue to play like this, sir, I will have to agree with you. So I wanted to touch on those. Juice, we are approaching the 30-minute mark, so I do want to turn it over to you. Any final thoughts on this 4-3 win against the Padres, which does clinch the series for the Cubs?
Can we just bask in the fact that we could potentially get this same matchup again in October? And watching that game tonight with that much firepower out there, I mean, you're talking about
and the fans at Wrigley.
You're talking about Manny Machado. You're talking about Fernando Tatis Jr. You're talking about, Javi Baez, Chris Bryant, Anthony Rizzo. I mean, that's must-see TV, man. You want to talk about bringing baseball back? That's fun.
Yep.
And I'm going to tell you what, man, the Cubs, they keep playing like this. You add a Scherzer, Garrett from Iowa is damn right. It's you talk World Series after this. I'm not going to talk it yet. I need to see more. And that's just to backpedal a little bit on this. I hope that for the rest of the year they don't crack the top 10 in the MLB rankings either. I don't know if you saw that.
Facts.
Play with
Leave
this
the
chip.
Cardinals up there, though. Leave the second place NL Central
ahead.
Cardinals up there, though.
But leave that chip on your shoulder.
Hell yes.
Because I love it. Because it seems like this team just wants to tell everybody to shove it this year.
Mm-hmm.
They want to tell Jed Hoyer, not Jed Hoyer, Tom Ricketts to shove it because he hasn't paid a damn guy who got you a World Series yet.
Facts.
They want to tell the whole national media to shove it because everybody said, oh, they're the third, maybe fourth best team. They want to tell every opposing fan base that pretty much said, no, we're not worried about the Cubs anymore. And they want to shove all the same Cub fans. And I know they exist. And I hate to call out our own, and I don't normally do this on this podcast. But there are a lot of Cubs fans out there, me included, who said it's a punt year. I'm going to watch Cubs baseball when I can, and obviously do this podcast with my homies. Love talking with my guys here. And I'm not going to get too damn excited. But I'll tell you what, it's June 1st, and I'm getting excited. And they're starting to reel me in. Tell me to shove it too. And there's a lot of us out there who still, with this whole, month of May that they had, and now it's like, oh, the next excuse is, well, look how bad the schedule is in June. Well, keep telling us to shove it. And at the end of it, you're going to get paid because Tom's not going to kick out people who brought him 2 championships, if that's a possibility, or a deep run. And I'm excited, man. I haven't been this excited, and I saw this on Twitter today. People are getting 2015 vibes.
And our very own Cody on Tap saying that himself as well.
And that's something that you want to talk about. You want to talk about some fun. I love that World Series team. It's near and dear to my heart. That 2015 team was fun, man. They may not have won the whole thing, but they were fun and they were unexpected. And when they took off, and they didn't look back.
Right.
And I'm really excited because I watched tonight, and at one point in the game, when it was back and forth in that 5th or 6th inning, I forget whatever one, when they traded I was like, man, 7-game series like this, that's must-see TV. Absolutely. So that was my final thoughts of today's game. I know we'll move on to the next one. I hope you have some yourself. I do.
And quickly, I want to get to a comment because not only, Juice, do you tell those to shove it, our guy watching on YouTube, Bear77H, also agrees. Shove it to Ricketts and the national rankings. They can suck it. I agree. I think they can suck it. And Juice, I will agree right there with you. I want to get a little analytical before I get emotional, and that's what we're going to say here. For starters, Scott from Iowa, our boy who called Patrick Wisdom. This is what I want to get to. He says, FYI, if Willie goes down on the DL for a bit, Iowa has a catcher named Lobotone who has power like Wisdom. Yes, he does. I actually know Jose Lobotone well because, as some may know, my favorite AL team is the Tampa Bay Rays. And Lobotone,
that's right. Yes.
Lobotone spent some time down there. I actually watched him play live a couple times. He is actually a very underrated catcher, good organizational depth for the Cubs. So that is a good call by our friend of the program, Scott from Iowa. But, Juice, I agree with you. I'm getting excited about this team. Watching from afar. I had FOMO this weekend, Juice. I was at a bachelor party, and I had FOMO because I wanted to be right here at Cubs on Tap. I wanted to be talking about this Cubs team right now because they are so much fucking fun to watch because they are winning ball games. They're having fun. Guys we've never heard of before are coming up and stepping up big for this team. This entire roster's hurt. Everybody was going into the season talking about, oh, well, you better have organizational depth because everybody's going to be hurt. And what happens when all your star players are hurt? Oh, my God, every team's going to fall apart. And there are teams right now that are falling apart because a lot of meaningful players are hurt. But guess what? The Cubs trot out Chris Bryant at first base and Javi at shortstop. But they trot out Rafael Ortega in right field. They trot out Patrick Wisdom at third base. They trot out Alcantara at second base, and yet they're still winning ball games. I was told, and I'll look myself in the mirror. I was told I was concerned about this starting rotation this year, but they just continue to find ways to get the job done. And I was concerned about this bullpen if they couldn't do what they did in the second half of 2020. Well, I'll tell you what, they told me to take a big old fuck you and go shove it where the sun doesn't shine because they are dominating right now. And like you said, we haven't even talked about some of these young arms that are down in AAA. We haven't even talked about some of these kids that are on the rise through A-ball and double A-ball. We haven't even touched on that. And the crazy part is they're just going to keep fucking doing it. They're going to find these guys. Keegan Thompson's going to come out of the woodwork and be a 2 to 3 inning kind of guy out of the pen. Justin Steele's tough as nails comes out of the pen in big situations as a young guy. And it don't matter. He's not afraid of the spotlight because he comes down in tough situations and usually gets out of it. And I can't wait till he's healthy. But I agree. What do you do when all these guys get healthy? And that's such a great problem to have. When David Ross has to sit there and actually like finish half a cup of coffee to figure out the lineup card every day, that's when you know he's doing some good critical thinking. He's getting the brain working before the game. And he's actually got to say, son of a bitch, who do we put in the lineup today? Because I've got about 14 to 15 guys that are hitting the baseball well, and I can only play 9 of them. And actually, I can only play 8 of them because I have to play the pitcher because the NL doesn't have a DH, which is a damn shame. Can you imagine this lineup with a DH right now?
Can you imagine the conversations that Rossi and Jed are going to have about the roster?
I can't wait. I can't wait because Ross is just going to be like, you trade any of these guys, and I'm gonna come up there and I'm gonna rip your desk apart.
I'm just saying, eventually someone's gonna have to go down.
Oh sure,
and that's that. The way that these guys are playing, a lot of them don't deserve to leave the team right now, and I think that's a hard thing to tell a player who's totally earned being here. That he has to and contributed. It's gonna be really hard. I think that there's some tough conversations. It's down the line a little bit, but it's coming.
It is.
It's coming.
And it's gonna be a tough conversation, but it's a conversation that I'm excited for them to have. But Juice, in summary, I'm in full agreement with you. It is June 1st, but I am excited about Cubs baseball, and that makes me a really happy human being. Once again, I had FOMO this weekend. I was at a bachelor party, and I had FOMO. That's when you know this Cubs team is 100% just a vibe. And yes, I agree, Scott. First world problems indeed when you have FOMO and they're at a bachelor party. I 100% agree with that. But we are going to move this thing forward, and we are going to talk about tomorrow's game because, Juice, I will let you take it away here in a second. But I do want to remind everybody that tomorrow's game is a 1:20 first pitch at beautiful Wrigley Field in Chicago, Illinois. If you are in the Padres market, you can listen to the game on KWFN 97.3 or XEMO 860, and then you can watch on Bally Sports San Diego. Bally Sports kind of, I think, taking over now for Fox Sports more or less in most of these regional markets. And then obviously your usual suspects for the Cubs, 670 The Score, WRTO 1200, and Marquee Sports Network in Chicago. The San Diego Padres are trading out Dinelson Lamet, and before everybody goes, who? He was the 4th place finisher in the Cy Young voting last year, so he is no chump. He is 1-0 on the season with a 2.57 ERA and 15 Ks. He only pitched for the first time in his last start, so he is fresh. He's there's a chance that he might be a little rusty, so that could bode well for the Cubs. And the Cubs, as you mentioned, Juice, earlier, are trotting out one of their hotter pitchers right now in Adbert Alzolay. He is 3-4 with a 3.81 ERA and 51 Ks, but I'll be honest with you, that record and ERA are not indicative of how he has pitched lately, as he has been doing some good things there. So, Juice, I shall turn it over to you for your preview and fly the W pick for tomorrow, and then I will make sure we wrap this thing up before we get out of here.
Yeah, I think it's easy for this team to say, well, you won 2 out of 3. Let's cruise into the next series. And I always say on this podcast, 2 out of 3, 2 out of 3. Just take 2 out of 3. No, tomorrow's the day you sweep. Because we all know, you've watched enough Cubs baseball in the past to know that West Coast trip is no joke. So when you have a home game and you got a team on the ropes like San Diego, who probably in a lot of ways just wants to go back to San Diego after getting their ass kicked, 2 days in a row, it's almost like, step on the bug. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Let's win 3, and it leaves you a little bit more room for error when you do have to go out west. I think that's it's huge for tomorrow. and that's why I said, and I kind of previewed the comment that I'd have here for the next game preview, kind of just saying, hey, don't take the foot off the gas, keep it going, win tomorrow, take a sweep. And that's why, maybe you go out to San Diego and you don't play your best ball and you win, maybe 1 out of the 3 out there, but you feel better about it because you in the whole, landscape of things, you took 4 out of the 6.
Yeah.
And that's the kind of baseball you got to play. So go out there tomorrow. I know it's a tough runs are going to be tough to come by tomorrow. I think that's just going to be a given with, obviously you're talking about, the opposing pitcher, and obviously Edward Alzolay has been so damn good. I think that this is one of those you lean on the bullpen at the end. You try to scrap across a couple runs, but play your game. Do what you've been doing, right? Get out there and move the baseball, and take advantage. Maybe a stolen base tomorrow is something that propels you to a win, or running out. And you know what? I hate to go back to today's ball game, but props to Kyle Hendricks for beating out the bunt that he couldn't get down, and then Willie goes yard on that next at bat. Props to him for that, because you don't win that ball game if that's the case. So those are the little plays that win you baseball games against tough teams like San Diego. And tomorrow, go out and get another one, take a sweep, and feel real good about going into the rest of June here. You have a little bit more room for error after a sweep against San Diego.
Big facts. I absolutely agree with you. Do you have a fly that you pick for us, sir?
I do. I'm gonna go with Edward Alzolay tomorrow. I think that
I like it.
I think he goes 7, have shutout baseball, and the Cubs win a really close 3-1 ball game. I think the bullpen actually gives up 1 run tomorrow.
Okay. Oh, wow. You might get some slander for that one.
Hey, they went 3-1.
Hey, that's okay.
Get to see more Dirty Craig.
True. Another save opportunity if that ends up being the case. Yeah, I agree with you, Juice. I think you laid it out perfectly, right? Tomorrow is such a big day. Also, very cool note about tomorrow's game. It is Lou Gehrig Day. It is the first official year of the celebration day. It is to help raise awareness for those that are battling ALS. So I think that is a very cool thing, and it also honors one of the game's legends. So that is tomorrow. Tomorrow is the inaugural Lou Gehrig Day. So that'll be cool. I'm sure there will be some pregame festivities as well. Before the Cubs and Padres square off at 1:20 here in Chicago. But you said it best. Obviously they have San Diego next week, but again, I feel like a lot of people are overlooking it, and I pray it's not the Cubs overlooking it. I agree with you, because you got to keep your foot on the gas. You get this win tomorrow. You have 4 with the Giants over the weekend, Thursday through Sunday. Again, the best team technically right now in the NL West. They are leading that division. So, a lot of people forget that they're kind of they're also in the same boat as the Cubs. People aren't giving them a lot of love nationally right now because of the Dodgers and of the Padres. So if you are the Giants, you also have a chip on your shoulder. So whose chip is going to be bigger? And I pray it's the Cubs, because even if they can split with the Giants, I prefer a series win, of course, because like you said, series win after series win, and you're in good shape. That'll bring you then that good momentum, like you said, into that 3-game set with the Padres next week. And then good for you. You got an off day before you come home and you play the dreaded, ugly St. Louis Cardinals, who you just swept, and hopefully they can do some damage against as well. For tomorrow's game, sir, I am going to go with one Jock Peterson. It's my fly the W pick. And here's why. Because Jock Peterson is the only player in this Cubs lineup that has seen Dinelson Lamet more than 5 times. Anthony Rizzo has seen him 5 times. Chris Bryant has seen him 4. And then Contreras, Happ have seen him 2. Sogard has seen him 3. And KB, Contreras, and Happ all have RBIs. Happ has 2. Each of the other 2 names I mentioned have 1. But in 10 at-bats in his career, Jock Peterson against Dinelson Lamet, he is batting .300. So you can do the easy math there. 2 home runs, 3 RBIs. And it's June. It's Wrigley. It's going to be about 70 degrees tomorrow at first pitch. And I'm expecting the wind to be blowing out. So yeah, I'm going to take Jock for some Jock jams tomorrow to help the Cubs get the sweep, because I'm feeling real good about it. And then I'm going to be staple gunning this bad boy right back on this hat tomorrow when they're flying the W.
I'd love it. A 3-run homer by Jock a 7-inning outing by Adbert Alzolay, and we'll cue the music, and we'll be right back at you with another Cubs on Tap.
Ooh, so well said. So well said.
It'd be crazy if it actually happened. We'd have to run that in the that would be the opening for tomorrow's episode if that happens.
100%. It absolutely will be if it does happen. Well, Juice, I do want to remind everybody before we get out of here, the Cubs on Tap is the official Cubs podcast of the On Tap Sports Network. You can go ahead and check us out at www.ontapsportsnet.com and at ontapsportsnet on social media. That is all your major platforms. You can pretty much find us there. You can also follow the pod-specific accounts. That is at Cubbies, Cubbies, on tap. That is both Twitter and Instagram. You can follow us there. I am at Luce on Tap on Twitter. Juice is at Juice on Tap on Twitter. And not only do we have great Cubs coverage, ladies and gentlemen, but we got all your favorite Chicago sports coverage: Bulls, Blackhawks, Bears. And yes, Cubs fans, let's be honest, we all have at least one friend that's a White Sox fan. We have pretty great coverage. Our guys over at Sox on Tap do a great job as well. So bring all your friends over as well and get your best Chicago sports coverage. Once again, at www.ontapsportsnet.com and at ontapsportsnet on social media. The On Tap Sports Network. Go ahead and check out what's on tap in Chicago sports. Well, Juice, this was fun. It's always great talking about Cubs winner. Cubs win 4-3 over the San Diego Padres on Tuesday, June 1st. We here at Cubs on Tap will be back after the Cubs and Padres on June 2nd. It is a day game, so it should be an earlier show. If it is not, there will be a scheduling update, hopefully from our Twitter account. So once again, make sure you follow us there at Cubbies on Tap. From myself, Ron Luce, and Juice, we're going to get out of here, Juice, the only way we know how to, buddy.
Fuck the Cardinals.
And let's go Cubbies.